Ladies and gentlemen, this is the state of the scene.
Yo, what the fuck is up, Warped Tour? The state of the scene at SOTS Podcast on all social media. Sam here with Marcos.
Yo.
Hey, it's been a minute again. Sorry. We're gonna buckle down. All right. No more of these missed episodes. We're deeply sorry. We've gotten our shit together and we're ready to talk about music. We're happy to be back. We hope you're happy to have us back. Does that sound good?
Just like the faintest sense of famous last words from that speech.
What do you mean?
I don't know. You say that, and it's like a jinx.
Like as a tree collapses on the studio. Yeah. No, I feel you. Like flash forward Final Destination style. I'm in the mosh pit and somebody like swings and I turn and my head explodes. So while we were gone, I did do some fun things. As always, we're going to talk about some music-related, smaller news topics up here, right? Before we get into some patron questions, a little discourse, bigger news stories, and then an album review. This week, Marcos, we got 4 Year Strong.
It's early.
Bringing it to you early. That's correct. You're going to hear this a few days before you hear the album.
There's a countdown on Spotify, and you go look, and it's like we're recording it 5 days out from when it releases.
Is that true? Is that an actual thing? I didn't know that was an actual. You can go look at like a countdown for albums.
It must be new.
Yeah, because I've never fucking seen this in my whole goddamn life. Neat feature though, I guess.
A little bit.
Like a doomsday clock. It's like, warning, this album drops imminently. I saw Blink-182 at Citi Field in New York with Ecstasy and Pierce the Veil.
Ecstasy.
With Ecstasy and Pierce the Veil. Yeah, that's correct.
Ecstasy.
Okay, so Ecstasy, I don't know really fuck all about Ecstasy. I'm going to be completely honest with you. They're a band that like, or an artist that I'm like peripherally familiar with. So like I saw the name on like the tour date and like I knew I had heard of them, but I wasn't like overly familiar with them. So like I sit down for that set. I'm seated. It's a stadium.
Good seats?
Yeah, there were decent seats.
Right.
Mets Stadium. I don't know if you've ever been.
Why are you saying
for
it like
a baseball game?
A massive flex?
Yeah, I would see Mets. I mean, that's where they.
Listen,
Have the Mets ever won anything? I don't know. I feel like that's what they're like perennial losers, if I remember correctly.
It's
like Blink-182 were making fun of them on stage. Yeah. They had like some banners hung around, so they must have won like a fucking like a. I don't know, like an AFC North title or some bullshit at some point.
The most I know about the Mets is watching King of Queens back in the day.
Oh my God, you're right. That is my connection.
And it was always like a running bit that the Mets just weren't great.
That's a good point. Yeah. So this is in Queens where the King is from.
Oh, fuck.
Ecstasy wasn't bad, right? So I was like a couple songs in and I'm like, I don't know if I'm really vibing with this, but it kind of like won me back like a little deeper into the set. And suddenly by the time it was over, I'm like, okay, this is an artist I'll probably go check out and see if there's someone that I like connect with. Haven't done it yet, but intend to. They were followed up by me walking around and looking for something to eat. I was told that like
Got a glizzy?
Stadium, had a lot of good food, but I didn't want to wait in line for any of it, so I ended up getting like I got the Met Stadium exclusive Shake Shack milkshake. You'll never guess what was in it.
$17?
Yeah, something like that. $45, some bullshit like that. Yeah, it was absolutely insane. Merch was wild. I glanced at merch from a distance and like you could hear my wallet like crying.
Yeah. They were selling the $200 sleep token jacket just because.
Yeah. They had like a poster that was kind of neat. Like Blink had like a poster and it was like $40 for the basic version, and then there was like a holographic one that was like $85, and I'm like,
ooh,
well, that one's too expensive, but also I can't get the basic one knowing that like this nicer version exists, so I guess I'm just not gonna get one. I think they've had one of these at every single one of their tour dates where it's like specific to the city or the stadium or something like that.
You know who does that?
Who?
Metallica.
Does Metallica do that actually?
Yeah, I was checking their
Were you
page.
shopping?
No, well, I was a little mad because like no mention of like Ice Nine Kills or Architects opening anything on the. No, but like as our own band started opening for that band, I started checking their Twitter, and they would post that poster every day before,
Sure.
the show.
Are they cool? Are they cool posters?
But like they never include the support, and it's like, guys, what are we doing?
I don't know that Blink included the support either. That might have just
What
said
the
like
fuck?
Blink 182. I mean, it's merch that Blink is selling to Blink fans specifically, right?
Yeah.
Not that I could get like a Pierce the Veil poster or an Ecstasy poster.
Yeah,
if
it
I
sounds.
wanted it.
I mean, you're not the biggest fan. You didn't buy anything.
I didn't buy anything because
You
I
didn't
can't
meet
because I
Travis
spent all my money on a
Barker for
milkshake.
A band.
I spent my hard-earned money on a milkshake. That was good. And then I went and I sat back down for Pierce the Veil, who were very good.
Who you hadn't seen in a decade?
At least. Last time I saw that band was literally only time I saw that band, I'm pretty sure it was Warped Tour. Last time, only time. I never saw a single one of those bands headlining shows, support show. It's crazy. I don't know how we like dodged every Pierce show considering how big of fans of that band we were. It makes no sense to me.
They did stop touring for like 5 years.
Yeah. But I mean, like before that, obviously, like 7 years before that happened, where we had a chance to see them, right? Like every time they like double billed with like Sleeping with Sirens or something, we just never happened to catch
every
them.
time.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand it. So it was exciting to see them, and obviously, I'm getting a lot of like newer material, right? Like I think they opened with like the opener off of the new album, and then they played like Past the Nirvana, and then they played one other song. Emergency Contact.
They played 3 total.
They played 3 new, if you don't include the travesty that is that fucking Radiohead cover, which literally, like, that was like a federal offense, them including that in the set list. Like, a complete fucking momentum killer. Who gives a fuck? Like, I'm not here to hear a fucking Radiohead song. Like, it's not even this audience either. Like, you get a bunch of pop punk fans. You're Pierce the Veil. You've got a bunch of pop punk songs. For all intents and purposes, you didn't play any of them. You played the fucking Radiohead cover. Terrible.
Pierce
Do not fucking
Radiohead
care.
cover's got to be one of the biggest. Like, who asked for this?
Nobody
in the history of this scene.
This band is trying to like force feed their like directional change on us in a way that I'm really not enjoying. Like some of it is like I get that we're like grungier now and it's fine, but I don't need you to like bash me over the head with a fucking Radiohead cover to get the point across.
You're saying
like,
this one's
I
personal.
Get it. Play another song from the new album. I would have much rather heard any other song from that album than the fucking Radiohead cover. Or, like, God forbid we played, like, Dive In or something. Well, you know what I mean? Like a song that's actually, like, adored that you wrote. Insane. Couldn't fucking believe it, but otherwise, great set.
King for a Day.
Obviously, they closed with
What
it.
else? Paraphernalia or no?
Paraphernalia made the cut.
I mean, this set must have been 12. So, I mean, they're direct support, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Circles made the cut. Ugh. It was pretty much like we're talking like top 5 Spotify new songs. That
Radiohead cover.
Nothing off of the first album. Radiohead cover. Yeah. Which
sure.
I'm gonna find out is like their most streamed song in like 3 days when somebody like comments on the YouTube. And I don't care, and I still don't think it should be on the set list. And actually, I think it should be taken off of Spotify.
Energy in general, like, did it feel good to see Pierce again? Like, did you enjoy the performance?
Yeah, boys had good
itself?
energy. It felt like they hadn't missed a beat. You know what I mean? It was just like I saw them minus like a drummer 12 years ago, right? Like almost the same band, which was exciting, right? I still am a little perturbed, I guess. Like if I can nitpick, I really do wish Vic Fuentes
Put that goddamn guitar down, brother.
I wish he wasn't a fucking guitar guy. Like I respect that he can play guitar, but when I'm watching him live, like we really need a touring guitarist there so Vic Fuentes can like move around a fucking stage. Yeah. You know what they didn't do that I thought they were doing every show? That thing where they like bring like someone up on stage and like serenade them.
I'm surprised they didn't. I was under the impression they still were.
They were, and they didn't even play the song where
Does
I feel
Blink
like
do something like that?
Blink
Blink
does not. No.
Okay.
Blink essentially not so subtly says they want to fuck every woman in the crowd, but they don't bring one up on stage.
They can't commit. They're all married, you know.
Right, that's precisely. I don't know if that's accurate. Is Tom DeLonge married? I don't know if that's true. So then Blink took the stage, right? And now we're done sitting. Like everyone's standing. It's like, okay, this is the standing part of the show. Like everyone was really chill for the first two artists.
I don't know how I feel about that. Everyone stands for the headliner thing.
You don't like it because it takes away your like agency, right?
Yeah.
Like now you have to regardless if you want to or not, you have to stand. Yeah, that I understand. But like, irrelevant of how you feel, we were all like, that was it. We were standing. Like we didn't have a choice.
You paid for seats, not for stands. Okay.
That's 100% correct.
I don't see you down in the field.
Like at that point, that would charge me more if you were to charge me for standing.
Would you go back to Citi Field? Catch a game?
No, not for baseball. That's for fucking sure.
Did Blink have pyro?
The only thing more boring than a Radiohead cover would be a full-ass baseball game. Blink did have pyro, and I fucking felt like I wasn't even... Like, they had it fucking all over the stadium, and you could feel it. Like, you could feel the heat on your face. It was like, it was powerful.
Cut to the sun still just like, beating on you.
Sun was gone.
Sun wasn't
nowhere
gone.
to be found. They did fireworks, too, which felt extra for
Really?
Blink, but I appreciated it. Yeah. Overall, great show. They played like 48 songs. They were all like 3 minutes long.
Did they bring a cow out and with the heat thing, like stamp it?
No.
What the fuck is that
Like
called?
the album?
Yeah.
Branding?
Yes.
No, they didn't brand a cow.
No. Damn.
They made a lot of jokes.
Did they?
At one point, Mark Hoppus was talking about like boxing an overly large clit. Like this is Blink material in between songs.
Yeah,
You know
that
what I
sounds
mean?
about right.
A lot of
Aliens come up?
like alien. Well, Tom's been wearing a UFOs are real shirt, which presumably I'm assuming is literally his brand, and you can go buy it.
I'm willing to guess.
Yeah, it just there's a little too much synergy there. You know what I mean? It's like the famous Stars and Stripes. It's like
It's
not
giving
just Travis
Mikey
Barker's favorite
fucking
shirt.
way.
It's his brand. Yeah, exactly. Wait, does Mikey have a clothing brand?
I don't know. I just feel like that shirt doesn't exist if he doesn't like promote it or something.
Interesting. So yeah, Blink was a great show. It was incredible. You and I went and caught Beartooth outside at the Palladium in Worcester.
Yeah. In general, I feel like New England doesn't get enough outdoor shows. If you're not going to a fucking baseball stadium,
We got a clean 3.5
or a
month
massive
window.
amphitheater, right? So
Yeah.
like it's not like every place else, like where you're every 3,000, 4,000 cap venues just happens to be outside.
Yep.
Until like one of ours, Palladium, has a big enough parking lot where they decide to do it. And sometimes, only twice over like the last 7 years, we've caught a band play outside, and it was pretty cool.
Granted, they've had, I feel like, a handful of shows, and we just haven't happened to catch
we've
them.
skipped a bunch of them.
Yeah. So, like, we only have ourselves to blame in this scenario.
Yeah.
So this was a Never Tell opening, followed up by Boundaries, Currents, and then Beartooth. So I feel like a big part of the reason that they were able to put this show outside in particular is not just because of Beartooth's popularity, but because Boundaries and Currents were ostensibly playing a hometown show, which is going to draw an even bigger crowd, right? Like those bands are, I think they're both from Connecticut, if I remember correctly, which this might as well be hometown when you're in Massachusetts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never Tell was okay. I think that band has a lot to work on in terms of their stage presence.
Your temperature, yeah.
I generally feel like their style of music is something that I'm inclined to like, but I think that their performance left a little bit to be desired, and that was like highlighted further immediately when Boundaries took the stage and just like we're one of those bands who were incredibly aggressive about just getting the crowd to move and then constantly like screaming at you and then just never having like a moment to breathe. Like it was a very intense set. Really made me respect Boundaries as a band seeing them perform live. Like it made me a bigger fan of it. Like it immensely increased my adoration for them after that live performance versus going into it.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, like I walked away and I was like, I gotta
really
listen to Boundaries.
deeply into that set, and same idea with like Never Tell, right? Like not quite there where it needs to be, and then Boundaries comes on stage and outclasses is a harsh way to phrase it, but like damn, that's some stage presence.
Yeah, you can kind of just see the difference between a band who's a little bit newer and a band who's been a little bit more ingrained. And then also there's sort of a big separation between the styles of music.
Yeah.
The sort of pop meets metal that Never Tell is doing versus the more hardcore adjacent metalcore that Boundaries has. Like one is certainly going to speak to the crowd. And then it also doesn't help that, you know, people were very much excited for what Boundaries specifically were doing. Like, we're talking bodies getting thrown out of the pit. Like, as the band takes the stage, like, we're not even playing notes, and people are already so fucking riled up that they're just throwing punches left and right? Follow that up with Currents. Currents is a band that I really enjoy, who I think that set list didn't quite speak to me the way I hoped it would. It was like every song was good, but not every song was what I was hoping to hear that night. And Currents is a band who I think I've seen once live before. And this was probably maybe around like their first album or like maybe right after their second album came out. And we were still playing a lot of those early classics that were missing from this set list. And I'm not going to be that guy who just complains that they're not playing the same 5 songs all the time. But I think in my particular situation where I hadn't seen them in quite some time, I was really hoping for those songs and I didn't get them. So I kind of had to have a conversation in my head the whole time and be like, listen, this is a good song. I know it's not the one you wanted, but it's a good song. And
they did have a couple of moments that set though, like specifically 2 instances where Brian, that's the vocalist, right? Brian.
Yeah, that's correct.
Who's like, this next song is called blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Why are we playing this?
Right, like
this just doesn't
you're
fit
waiting
the
for like
set.
apnea, right? And you're just not getting it.
Well, no, but it's not that at all. It's like why are we just playing like a deep cut off of an album? Like there were just instances where it's like this song doesn't make sense.
They played a lot of new. And to be fair, I do enjoy that new album, but I feel like that set list was lacking a certain energy that those new songs don't have. Those new songs feel a little bit more metal and a little bit less metalcore. And I think that after watching Boundaries, I had a certain energy that I was like anticipating from Currents that just wasn't met.
The deflating moments were like exaggerated.
And I think
Boundaries.
it was specifically like the song they closed on, which is just like, this is not the current song that I want to end my fucking night on. You know what I mean?
It's not that. It's
not
like
the send off.
This is not the closer. This is not how you close a set.
But
like I know, like leave things to the professionals here. But like I gotta draw the line somewhere. Like we gotta reassess the set list.
That set felt a little bit more for them and a little bit less for us. But otherwise, technically, great performance.
And in all fairness, crowd seemed very into it the entire time.
Again, hometown show. Currents got like the reception that they deserved and was expected.
Yeah.
And then Beartooth took the stage, and Beartooth is another one of these bands where I feel like I haven't seen him forever.
With the caveat that I think we've also avoided seeing them for a very long time because we just weren't quite into Beartooth for a while.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like Beartooth was like a debut album that I adored, 3 albums in between that I'm completely ambivalent about, and then a brand new album that I adore all over again. So yes, it's been a very hot, cold, hot relationship with Beartooth in particular, but I was extremely excited to go see them on the basis of how much I love this new album, which is why this was like a can't miss show for me. And they played like 6 songs off of it, and I was pretty content.
Yeah. Funny enough, they didn't play the one song I was hoping they would play the most, which
was a single.
The dumb little country song they've got in their pocket now.
Got to know your audience, I guess. You know, you're bringing Boundaries with you, you're bringing Currents with you, and you got to think.
Instead, we got that damn
country crowd.
Fucking that Radiohead cover.
Yeah.
They're playing it too. It's a cover of Pierce's cover.
You gotta wait for the Beartooth headliner with support from Bill Murray, which would be a real full circle moment for a lot of these people.
I think it'll happen. I think like
do you put Attack on it too and just go like?
The funny thing about Attack is
go
like
full in.
Who's even there anymore from those days?
There's like one guy, right? It's
Is
like
it
the drummer's
Andrew?
still there. I think it's Andrew. Yeah. But whatever. Like it's just name recognition at that point, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, insanely happy. I mean, Caleb Shomo is an incredibly watchable frontman. Just like one of the most high energy performing individuals, and like does not
I've really
miss a
fallen in
note
love with
during that
Shomo
performance. Yeah,
over the past couple of years now.
Beartooth is a band who's always had a reputation for an incredible live show, for what it's worth.
They have. I feel like I've also seen that live show a couple of times, and it didn't always hit. So, for certain people, it's definitely, you know, like I think it's different for some people.
This felt like Beartooth at their best, right? And we're talking about people who have seen them like at their inception.
Yeah. And I think we had a lot of cool moments. Like this band did break out the pyro. We had a moment where Shomo came all the way into the crowd, pretty much like 6 feet from us, stood over like the sound booth essentially that was set up outside, and it was a nice moment mainly because the crowd didn't cave in on itself to get closer to Shomo.
Yeah, it was like, this is incredible to me that the second time I've been surprised by an artist just sort of like showing up directly next to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this happened at that fucking Bad Omen show where it's like, I don't know how an artist gets from point A to point B, and I just like, am I that oblivious to my surroundings?
Once they jump into the crowd, you lose them, and and then I'll have like people like looking my way but like past me, and I'm like, what's fucking
Stage is that way, buddy. Stage
on the
is that
stage,
way.
asshole.
Yeah. But it's like you can't trust the crowd because they're constantly not paying attention to what they should be. It's crowd problems, like 101.
We had a lot of talkers on this this show.
We had a couple people dressed up in characters, which was deeply funny to me when like we show up for that show, we're standing there, we're waiting for it to start, and there's a guy dressed like a chicken, and at one point like another guy shows up dressed as like a fucking baby or something.
Scooby-Doo is the one we saw.
Yeah, and he like just like beelines it directly to the other guy to be like, "Hey, how's it going? Fucking hey, how you holding up? Like things going all right? How's the family?" I was like, "Of course these two guys know each other."
So I
like,
hate that
no
there's
surprise.
a camaraderie there that's like built in.
Yeah. But anyways, that was a fun show. I really enjoyed
Strangely
that.
beautiful, but like pissed me off.
Agreed. And I preferred the Beartooth cover of Mr. Brightside over the Pierce the Veil cover of Radiohead.
You know what I was super happy about is all of the songs they played pretty much hit for me, besides like maybe one-off Disease. But like on a set where they only played 6 new songs, I say only, that's still a lot, but like we got a healthy spread for most of them outside of like Aggressive, and I was happy with all of it.
You know, you can call us out and say, hey, those Beartooth albums in the middle are pretty good, but I watched that band play the other night, and they maybe acknowledged 2 songs off of those 3 albums, and I feel like maybe we've come around to agreeing with it. Maybe Beartooth is on the same page as me.
Maybe. Good amount off the debut, though.
Good amount off the
nice.
debut because the debut was great. My Chemical Romance had their Facebook page hacked.
Aw.
This was like a moment where, like, I woke up and I was so mad. Like, if My Chemical Romance are going to start doing shit, it better not happen at 3 a.m. when I'm fucking asleep. Like, I don't want to wake up and news broke 6 hours ago. Do you know how fucking annoying that is? So I gotta be honest, I was pretty happy to see that it was just a hack because I saw like the logo change and stuff like that. I was like, oh my God, I slept through My Chemical Romance came back and I slept through it. I was like, this is so fucking embarrassing.
Logo change did get me. I see that and I'm like, that's believable.
Right? Why wouldn't
Right.
it be? This is
Why
how
would
I
it-
feel like this is how they came back
They
last
broke
time.
out a new
right?
logo. Yeah, it's a good point.
But this is how the Russians were trying to deceive us.
Doesn't help that I've never loved this new logo.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I guess I'm not really married to that logo either. Now that you mention it, it also
Like
doesn't help.
the letters are like sort of like it's like a stair thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
They got a candle and it's
yeah,
like nah.
fuck all that
It's
shit.
very boring.
You know what I like slightly better, which is like the cross where they had like the letters and then like a symbol.
Sure.
I was a little bit more into that, which I feel like was like the logo before this. Anyways, they started posting some shit about how like celebrities were dying, and people were like, "Okay, this is bullshit." And they have since recovered their Facebook page, so disaster averted, I suppose.
Interesting stuff though. I feel like the most we've talked about My Chemical Romance, just like things sort of falling apart lately, right? Like you got like a leak, you got a hack.
I don't know about falling apart, but you're right. They have been in the news in
Cracks
ways
in the
that
armor is
isn't
what I'm saying. Like, what's
intentional.
going on?
though. These last couple days,
We got some selfies.
Mikey Way's been taking pictures of Frank Iero. He's taking pictures of Ray Toro. People are trying to figure out what the hell's going on, right?
They're absolutely just preparing for when we were young.
A brand new
somehow.
album. That's absolutely correct, Marcos. And finally here, Hurtwave is working on new material, but has become a Rory Rodriguez solo project, Marcos. So Hurtwave is a band that's been on the back burner for quite some time. It's nice to see that it's still alive. As you can see behind us, if you're watching the video version of the show, we're pretty big fans of Hurtwave, and we're glad that this project is continuing, even though it's not in the same form that it initially was.
Yeah, I believe the guy's name was Mike, who
His name
was
was Mike, yes,
also
correct.
part of Dayseeker.
Right.
I also don't think involved in that project.
He's hard
anymore.
out. He's hard out of the
Might be
scene.
hard out.
He's
might
out of
be
the
hard
scene.
out.
He's done.
Definitely hard out of Hurtwave, which is disappointing for sure. But the promise of new Hurtwave, I remember talking with Rory like this, maybe not this time last year, maybe it was a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
talking about the possibility of new Hurtwave, and he was like not ready to commit at all to that project continuing, and here's confirmation that it will be, and that's nice.
I'll take it. It's like, if that's the bare minimum, I'll take it, right? As always, every link you need is in the description of this episode, including our socials, playlist, merch, and Discord. Subscribe to us on YouTube at SOTS Podcast YT, and leave a thumbs up if you're watching the video version of this podcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please leave 5 stars. We're so close to like 700 reviews on
That'll be cool.
Spotify. We're very close.
Yeah.
Doesn't help that we took 2 weeks off. Once again, we apologize. 5 stars. Judge us for who we are now, not who we were before. Dated discourse this week. Is metal actually back? Gojira made history at this year's Summer Olympics opening ceremony as the first metal band to take part in the event and subsequently lit social media ablaze with many praising the performance as the precursor to a return of metal to the pop culture stratosphere. Additionally, the band found themselves receiving condemnations of Satanism from conservatives, which would spawn from the band's use of a slew of beheaded Marie Antoinettes and an implication of raining blood that were featured as showpieces for their massive set. Fans were quick to point out the irony of labeling the band, known for songs about saving the earth from climate change, as being threatening in any capacity, shining a light on the stagnant lenses many still view metal music through. Does metal's inclusion on the world stage further its legitimacy, but more importantly signal a renaissance for the genre with mainstream audiences? Marcos, take this whichever direction you want.
I'm taking it in either direction of the questions asked. What I wanted to say...
Why would I ask questions if you're not going to answer them?
What I wanted to say was I wish a band would finally lean into like the satanic panic angle and be like, yes, 666. What about it?
You remember when a band tried that last year? And they threw like a severed pig's head into the crowd? And then immediately apologized to the vegan community. It's not the time anymore.
Well,
it's just you can't do this shit anymore.
It's gotta depend on the band, right? Gojira, I didn't know was like actively one of the climate change bands.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. Honestly, I don't know a ton about Gojira besides the fact that they got their name from Godzilla.
This is how I learned they were French. So
you didn't know Gojira was French either? Neither did I. Don't know a fucking thing about Gojira.
Gojira is not a French word.
I tuned into this performance and I was like, all right, let's see what fucking mid-ass cooked metal they decided to put on the world stage so that I could like try to explain to people that the metal I listen to doesn't sound fuck all like this. And then it ended up being good. And I was like, damn, I did not know your game, Gojira.
I didn't. I was not aware of that game, and I'm converted. I'm a fan now. I think that, I do remember checking out that album and it not like their most recent record, and it didn't exactly click for me. But I have a feeling going back now with like this specific performance in mind.
Right, like you close your eyes and you see them performing at the Olympics, it like paints the whole album in a different light.
Oh, I could see them performing this song on the side of a building, and yeah, that works for me.
With a million beheaded Marie Antoinettes.
Does this signal a renaissance for the genre with mainstream audiences?
Yes, that was the question, yes.
I don't know. And I guess the reason I don't know is because I feel like I don't know if this is like the thing that pushes it over the edge, but I feel like metal has already been in the public eye again for a little while now. And this doesn't feel like, Do
you have an example of that claim? Do you have an example of that claim? Do you have a strong example of metal returning to the real, actual, legitimate mainstream?
I guess maybe I don't, but it's because I blur the lines of what metal is so much in my own head, and that. So
when you talk about like Lil Uzi Vert fucking with a metal band,
the scene, and if a pop punk band is big, then that means a metal band is big, right?
You talk about like the Megan Thee Stallion, like Spirit Box crossover.
Yeah.
Sure, in small ways.
Didn't make the album though, which is annoying.
That is annoying. I agree with you. I don't think it's quite broken through in the way that. You should have seen the way Twitter lit up for this. It was insane. Just like people could not stop talking about this. Holy shit. Bro, I didn't metal apparently is good again. It was like, damn.
You're right.
Gojira's band has been around for like 25 years or some shit.
I don't know. I mean,
is there an opportunity here? Do you think there's like an opening? Like, could we get in, right? Like, is there a crack in the door and maybe metal could get there again? Like, no, maybe it's not Gojira, but maybe it's like, does this hit enough people where they're like, shit, is there something here? Or like, is the Olympics not even playing to the generation of people who are going to decide what's popular anyways?
I think everyone watching the Olympics has already forgotten about this. I'm not going to lie.
But we've moved on to much worse subjects, unfortunately.
Pretty cool moment regardless.
Yeah. Cool moment. Maybe not a game changer. But hey, we'll take one W for metal. It's all we've had in like 20 years. If you want to support the show, consider becoming a patron for exclusive content, the ability to submit questions to the show, and producer credits on all of our video content. Patrons also receive access to bonus podcasts, SOTS Deluxe on this week's Deluxe. We talk new music from Rain City Drive, Icy Stars, The Plot and You, and Kingdom of Giants. Marcus, obviously we're catching up on like 3 weeks worth of material.
Yeah, we don't even have enough room to talk about Aerosmith not touring anymore.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Marcus. We had to break news out into 2 separate episodes, and there's plenty to talk about. $3 a month, patreon.com/SOTS podcast. You can ask us questions like Constantine, who wants to know, What is a band or an album you recently stumbled across and thought to yourself, wow, I almost forgot this existed, but love it? To me, it's Emmanuel and their album Soundtrack to a Head Rush. Cheers from Germany. Cheers, Constantine. From America.
Band is what I'm going to go with, and it's Cute is what we aim for.
What the fuck? Cute is what we aim for. Really?
Their name's been thrown around Twitter a couple times recently because
disparagingly, if I remember correctly.
Like, hey, this was a little more sexist than I remember.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm gonna go find out for myself. They're not wrong, but like, does it still fucking slap? Undeniable. That band was so fucking talented.
This is a history of our whole scene. Was it a little sexist? Absolutely. Did it slap as well?
Right.
Yes. Therein lies the problem.
Guilty as charged.
Therein lies the problem. Shit, I don't know if I have a real good one. I was at a yard sale and randomly bought Reanimation by Linkin Park because I was just like so enthusiastic to find that CD out in the wild and randomly did not own it. So I was like excited to remember it existed, honestly. And we just celebrated like its anniversary recently too. It was like 40 years or some shit like that. It's crazy. Yeah.
Say words
crazy.
like that.
Katarina DW asks, what are your favorite books or graphic novels? Marcus, I'll go first, if I may. I just finished reading The Way of Kings, which is a Game of Thrones fucking meets Lord of the Rings ass style fantasy novel, and it was incredible. I'm already on the second book. Can't fucking pull myself away from it. Absolutely in love with it, Marcos.
You're not going to also hit us with The Umbrella Academy as your favorite graphic novel?
I feel like I don't have a lot of favorite graphic novels, so yeah, we'll go ahead and say that it's The Umbrella Academy. That's fair.
Just default.
Yeah.
We're talking like all time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite series, and this is like when I was a little younger, a kid, if you will.
Sure.
The Edge Chronicles. And it's a series that I feel like would be so expensive to make as a movie that everyone has forgotten about this book because it's never been made into a movie.
What the fuck was the premise of this shit?
It's like it's super high fantasy ass shit, dark fantasy shit. And there's like werebears and there's just like creatures, a lot of creatures. But like the main thing that people do in this world is like they're sky pirates.
You're right. They can't afford to make this one.
Like the main character's
they
name
didn't even
is
turn
fucking,
it into like an animated
main
TV show or
character's
nothing.
name was fucking Twig.
Okay.
He gets hunted by something called a gloam glazer.
Sure.
It's fucking fire and it's all around incredible. But like the cool thing about this book additionally is like it's got not full illustration, but like every third page will have like you know it's author
Here's what a
and an
gloam
illustrator
glazer
is also
looks like.
featured. Right, and it goes like hand in hand. So like you get all these cool visuals and that's when you realize like how expensive this shit would be to make.
They should still make it. It sounds dope.
And then I recently read Final Girl Support Group, which is really good.
That's an incredible author. Grady Hendrix. All of his books are very good. Andrew W. asks, favorite horror killer of all time? Shit. What's the name of the Ice Night Kills horror killer? The fucking is that actually what it is?
IX.
Doesn't he have a fucking name?
The Hunter.
I swear to God he has a name. I can't remember.
He does have a
my
name.
head. The Stabber.
Mr. Charness.
Favorite horror killer of all time?
Conventional
man.
answer is Ghostface, of course.
Right. Perennial winner.
Just incredible costume. It's a different person every time. Spoiler alerts. That's always fun.
Do you feel like we have to go like we can't go fantasy? Like I can't say like Pennywise.
So that's why I
You want, like, a
prefaced with
slasher?
conventional. And
Right.
yeah, I mean like Pennywise is like, yeah, well, yeah, right. But because I guess the question is slasher, right?
Right.
I guess.
Always been
I
a big Hannibal fan. He's unique.
I watched Silence of the Lambs for the first time the other day.
Literally the first time in your whole life. Bro, if you tell me that movie don't slap, you're off the podcast.
I didn't realize like at some point there's a whole ass scene where this guy's literally a fucking hitman and he's just taking people out left and right.
We're talking about Hannibal himself?
Yeah, he's a fucking superhero.
Spoilers for a 30-year-old movie. I might argue super villain, but final shout outs for horror killers.
Chucky's fun.
Chucky is fun. Alex P asks, imagine that you are similar to a streaming service executive who is able to greenlight a final season for a show that for whatever reason didn't initially get a chance to wrap up.
This better be
Given
good.
an opportunity to bring back a band for one more record/album cycle. Sum 41 style with the outward intention that it's one last hurrah and the band gets to go all out one more time with a blank check to give them an opportunity to walk away into the sunset with a magnum opus under their belt, who do we bring back?
The band with like the most botched final album and year of their career.
Who? What?
Fucking Panic at the Disco.
Oh shit!
Give them one shot to erase that album from my mind, that stain on their existence. Go
Right.
out with an actual good record. Bring back Ryan Ross. Get all the boys back together.
That is such a phenomenal answer. That is a really good answer. My answer is Asking Alexandria. I know they're still active, but I would like them to make just one last good album and then call it a day. That's all I'm asking for. Just what we just run it back,
Fix the timeline, and then erase it.
Exactly. That's precisely like just straight up stepped up and scratch a new album and then fucking call it a day. Bring what's his face Dennis in for like a couple of fucking dual vocals. It'd be amazing. Sam C asks, because I'm listening to them right now, what are your favorite Too Close to Touch songs?
I feel like Crooked Smile was our introduction to that band.
That sounds correct. Yes.
And I've always held a special place in my heart for that track. Modern Love Affair. Really, it's anything off of that second record. Haven't Been Myself. I think that's just one of the best records ever. And then I really liked a bunch of tracks off those last couple of EPs. I'm blanking on song titles at that point.
There is like the song that I think hit me the hardest by Too Close to Touch, and I want to look it up before I fuck it up.
That's not Novocaine.
Is Eiley, which I know is not from the new album. And then obviously my like Too Close to Touch song would be like Sympathy.
Yeah, Sympathy's always that bitch.
That was the album for me. Like it just fucking hit me exactly when it needed to. It was what made me adore Too Close to Touch. Oh man, what a fucking sad reminder that is something that like ended this year specifically.
Yeah.
Caillou asks, I've been listening for years and just realized when y'all said it on the last episode that you're brothers. Now everything makes sense.
We're not brothers.
Yeah, we're literally not. Please. Do you think it's made doing SOTS with your brother, so to speak, better than if you were doing it with a friend and not family?
Yes. I feel like if we were just friends, this would have ended long ago.
It does feel like that, right? Like we would have gone our separate ways. It would have been a fun to do, but it's because we're brothers. It's almost like, well, I'm already seeing you every week, and we might as well knock a podcast out, right?
Yep.
It's like the podcast has become our third brother, right? Our little
It's the brothers we made along the way.
Our little stepchild brother that we hate, but we still love. Heather R asks, what bands are you hoping will collab in the future? I gotta be honest. Can I be honest with you right now?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe we haven't really had King for a Day 2 yet. Like, I need a couple of superpowers to just be like, let's go big. Like, I just need a couple of artists to just be like, listen, now is the time to get the Courtney LaPlante, Noah Sebastian dual fucking mega song. Let's just fucking do it, because who cares? Like, why don't we just go ahead and write the biggest song in the history of the scene 2.0?
Yeah, 100% nail on the head there. I mean, more specifically, it is insane to me how literally Pierce the Veil actually do not collaborate with anyone. Like,
now?
How little.
Right.
Well, in general, because to me, like they've only ever smashed it with collaborations, but I can only ever think of like Jeremy McKinnon and Kellen Quinn. Like, have they even had others?
Jason Butler. That would be the third one. I would
Was
say.
Johnny Craig on anything?
No. Vic was on a Johnny Craig song, and then obviously there was Isles and Glaciers, but Johnny Craig was never on a Pierce song.
So, but like what I'm saying is like a certified hit every time, and then this band just never actually embraces it at any one point.
Well, it's my understanding they tried to get the vocalist of Radiohead on that cover.
A Pierce the Veil record with 4 features would be the greatest album of all time.
Do you think
and this band outright refuses to do it? And I'm not even saying like get me anyone from the like throw fucking Bad Bunny on one of these songs. Like anything would work. Get the Radiohead guy. What's his name? Tom?
I mean, are you specifically asking for a Pierce the Veil to feature with somebody? Is that what you take away from this like
people
collab?
to collaborate on a Pierce the Veil
Sure.
album.
That's what
this is a Pierce the Veil song featuring Kellen Quinn again, featuring fucking all these Sykes. You know, like dude, like it's worked every time. Why don't we do it every time then?
It's a fair point. I agree. And finally, Marcos, Once again, patreon.com/SLTS podcast if you want to support the show. Alex F. asks, thoughts on the new 1,000 Below single, Wrong Again?
Their second of the year?
It is their second of the year. Yeah, that's correct. I just continually am baffled at how this band hasn't broken through in a big way. I just really think that 1,000 Below should be like a headlining type band. Like, they should be as big as all of the other bands in their space. I just don't think that they've put out a song that I haven't really connected with, and Wrong Again is another great example of that.
Yeah, it's an example of that time having not come and gone. It's just, again, proving the point that, like, this is a band dropping material at this level that still hasn't fully broken through, and that's frustrating.
As always,
like the music's not there.
I agree.
As
I
always.
Agree. Heated agreement.
As always.
As brothers, we tend to just see eye to eye on everything. As always, the news is brought to you by Shibori Threads, the clothing label of the alternative music scene.
The news.
Speaking of collaborations, Machine Gun Kelly and Jelly Roll have teamed up for a new single, Lonely Road.
Lonely road, take me home to the place that we went wrong. Where'd you go now?
The pseudo-spiritual successor to John Denver's Take Me Home, Country Roads, was accompanied by a layered and cinematic music video featuring Machine Gun Kelly's girlfriend and Jennifer Body star Megan Fox alongside Jelly Roll's wife, Bunny. The music video tackles sensitive subject matter for its couples, reverberating real-life struggles with pregnancy for Fox and Bunny. The two artists are said to have collaborated on the song over the course of 2 years, 8 studios in 4 different countries. It has since seen astounding success, trending number 1 on YouTube for multiple days and sitting at nearly 7 million views in just over a week, exceeding 7 million streams on Spotify and reaching number 1 on US iTunes. Machine Gun Kelly is coming hot off the release of Hotel Diablo Floor 13 edition, featuring new and reimagined songs from the original 2019 release of that album.
5-year anniversary.
Jelly Roll is coming fresh off a feature alongside Eminem on his most recent released album, The Death of Slim Shady, in addition to dropping new song Liar, a track he had previously premiered earlier this year at the ACM Awards.
There was another thing he did too.
And a collaboration with Falling in Reverse and Slaughter to Prevail, which I believe hit number 1 on the hard rock charts. And the fuck am I missing?
It's wrong. That's not the artist that was on the Slaughter to Prevail song.
Oh shit, you're right, that is in the song.
Yeah.
It was just Jelly Roll and then it was Tech 9 on the Falling in Reverse song? Got it. Thank you. Machine Gun Kelly currently sits at 14.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify, while Jelly Roll claims 22.3 million. Marcos, where do you want to start with this?
Damn. Crazy to bond with your boy over your wives being infertile, or the guys over both of you being infertile. Who's infertile?
So Megan Kelly has, I believe, 3 children, but obviously had a highly publicized miscarriage recently. And Bunny is currently undergoing IVF treatment.
Her name is not Megan Kelly.
What did I call her?
No, I thought that was intentional.
Shit. No, it is Megan Fox. Sorry.
Well, it's insane to claim the last name of what is not the guy's actual name.
It is funny, but then Megan Kelly is also a celebrity.
It's just her stage
who's a
name.
completely different person.
Who?
Megan Fox Kelly. That's not her full name.
No,
it should be. Megan Kelly was a fucking Fox News host.
Man.
I'm just saying it's a person that exists. I'm just saying I'm not saying I'm a fucking fan. I'm saying they exist. Is that where you wanted to start?
It is where I wanted to start. And the second place I want to go is seeing a lot of Jelly Roll in this scene suddenly.
Jelly Roll is quietly infiltrating the scene in the same way that Mitchell Tenpenny has showed up on every metalcore band's "We're Kind of Country Now" song.
Mitchie Tenpens?
Yeah, that's correct. I don't hate this general side road we've taken into flirting with country in the alternative scene. I think for all intents and purposes, the pop punk movement has come and gone. Metal is pretty static in many ways, at least on the more popular end of the spectrum. So sure, why not try country out for a little bit? What's the worst that could happen? We get some interesting songs.
I mean, yeah, at this point, MGK doing a little bit more than dabbling. Like, we did the cover, like a big cover, Sun to Me, and now fully committing in a song with Jelly Roll, a country artist. I'm curious where he decides to go next here. I'm not sure.
I think what's slightly interesting about Machine Gun Kelly to me is that like he took on like a aesthetic of pop punk and has maintained it into this country like side road that he fucking
Maintains it too much in this damn video.
maintains it too much. In what capacity?
Breaks the fucking the believability of everything when the idea, like,
You're wrong here.
all the
Jelly
all
Roll
the
and Machine Gun Kelly look like they work at a fucking
No.
as mechanics
right.
in this video. Like it works
But
for
if
me.
the storyline is that these people are like barely getting by, their house is about to get foreclosed.
Sure, they should have spent less money on tattoos.
And then MGK is just like, let me go rob this bank with literally
Spoilers.
this $5,000 jacket on.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, yeah, sure. My guy suits up because he needs money, but he could have just gone to like the pawn shop and like gotten at least $2,000 for that jacket
Right.
and been able to pay for Megan Fox's pregnancy.
Also, I don't know if ultimately I believe, full spoilers, where this music video goes down.
Spoilers
like,
for music videos is so funny, but I do love calling.
I mean, it's like fairly story driven.
Yeah.
MGK risking his life, robbing a bank to support his family is the funniest thing in the world, where like he still ends up in jail. So like now Megan Fox is forced to be a single mother for a while.
Yeah, but
like also he leaves this money with Jelly Roll and he's like, take care of my family, you're my brother. And then it cuts to like MGK in jail and it finally shows Jelly Roll and he's got like the biggest iced out necklace you've seen in your fucking life on. And like, sure,
you're
he's
saying
there.
my guy doesn't get to be rewarded for all of the fucking heat he's under?
Yeah,
He doesn't get himself a little like gift.
Listen, I get it. He's raising two families. He's helping raise two families, but like,
well, that explains how they got into this predicament in the first place. They're obviously bad with money.
$5,000 jackets, necklaces.
What was the same part of this music video that it opens with them in a cemetery, apparently, because like MGK's brother died in this video? Like, it's the wildest. Like, all right, let's set up this universe. MGK's brother dead. Right. Smash cut. They work as mechanics and they have no money.
They've been having trouble having babies.
Right, precisely correct. There was like a little
on?
scene there, right, where Jelly Roll's, he like goes home to his wife and she like holds a paper and like the camera super zooms in on it and it's like fertility, fucking not good. So like obviously the storylines are very married in that capacity. IVF costs a lot of money. What do you want from MGK at this point? Because now we've gone from pop punk back to rap into country. Are you just kind of happy with whatever he gives you?
Yes and no. Like, I don't mind this. I would like, I don't know. I don't know if I need the commitment to like do another pop punk album.
Sure.
But like until then, I feel like I'm only paying half attention.
Interesting. So you're 1 foot out the door now that we're not doing pop punk anymore.
I mean, that sounds harsh, but it might be the case.
Okay.
Like we do the rap song, we do that cover, we do this track, and like the entire time I'm like, yeah, this is fine, whatever. But like I don't have the investment that I did back when we were like doing full album rollouts. And
does this whet your appetite a little bit for country? Like, do you feel like you could have a bit of a country year? Like if enough of these songs connect for you, like that Bill Murray album was really working with you.
Yeah, well,
you love that Beartooth song.
That's what I was gonna pivot to. Like I don't know if this is what puts me over the edge, but like that Bill Murray album does, right?
It's no surprise that this song is as popular as it is, because when bands do this thing where they just almost like not full on sample, but literally just almost like pay ode to the song in a way that they're literally just singing a song everyone's overly familiar with. You remember, I think it was like a song for like the fucking Cars soundtrack where it was like Life is a Highway and it was just like a fucking modern country band recovered that song. Yes, and it was like massive, and now that's the only version you hear at the grogrocery store every single day of your life.
And it was a good cover.
This is that shit right here.
That's what Pierce is trying to do.
This is that shit. Pierce ain't even Jelly Roll on a Pierce song.
I really just...
Is Jelly Roll a scene guy? I don't know when this guy suddenly started fucking with the scene so hard.
That is absolutely the monkey paw that just fucking curled on me when I was complaining about
You're begging.
Pierce the Veil collaborations.
How do you feel about Jelly Roll in general? This is my introduction to him. I actually never heard that Falling in Reverse songs. This is the first time I've ever listened to him sing anything, at least that I've been aware of.
The introduction I had to Jelly Roll was, I think, in front of the Supreme Court. He was arguing
against fentanyl?
Like, yeah.
I meant fucking artistically, obviously.
Well, I mean, like, I think, like, you also discuss the guy as a person. I don't know.
Okay, all right. So
he
anti-fentanyl was your introduction.
Well, right,
to
that's
Jelly
a
Roll,
win.
sure.
That's I mean, I feel like if you're on the side of fentanyl, it's a weird place to be. Obviously,
obviously.
As an artist, I guess that's the reason I bring it up, because as an artist, I don't really care about him too much.
Okay, sure.
But like good values, I guess. You know?
Marcus was really invested in this story. Let's see if he cares more about the next one. Waterparks cancel new album Intellectual Property 2 Lost in the Property. Alongside a short clip of vocalist Austin Knight burying a version of himself representative of the band's intellectual property era, the following message was shared for fans. I, Austin Knight, no longer feel good about Intellectual Property 2 Lost in the Property and will be canceling the release. The sheer amount of unprecedented mishaps, bureaucratic red tape, and bizarre things that have gone truly wrong has me believe the universe is working against this project, and I'm tired of fighting it. It sounds dramatic, but without going into every specific detail, this album feels haunted. On top of that, living in the quote-unquote property world for 3 years now and constantly being in the headspace of reapproaching my issues with religion is very unhealthy and continues to take its toll on my mental well-being. The idea of having to follow through with a full rollout, multiple tours, and keep living in that place sounds daunting, and I'd rather take a beat and reapproach the next Waterparks album with love rather than fear and bad energy. It's unconventional, but I wanted to give one final thank you to everyone who celebrated Intellectual Property 2 with us from its inception at the Sneaking Out of Heaven tour. Tomorrow we're dropping one final track. That's actually today that we're recording, but it's not out yet, Marcos. From the album titled Guilt. If you were there, you'll know. All that being said, without going into detail, you're going to really enjoy the next few months. Thank you forever. Enjoy. Intellectual Property 2 Lost in the Property was fashioned as both a follow-up to Intellectual Property as well as a reimagining, seen most recently with single Fuck About It 2 featuring Zeph. Singles Soul Sucker and Sneaking Out of Heaven were also set to feature on the album. The album had not yet received an official release date prior to today's announcement. It is currently unclear if the reimagined tracks set to debut on the record will see the light of day. Waterparks currently holds 1.3 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
I don't think Black Bear was all too pleased about being left off of Fuck About It 2, and he sent the black SUVs.
Is it a hit job?
It was a hit job. I have really mixed feelings about this story in that initially I was disappointed, and then I did get excited about the idea of just moving on to the next thing. I mean, disappointment mostly because, like, I really did enjoy the reimagined singles, but then it was like a realization that, like, yeah, I kind of am over the intellectual property era. Like, I am ready for the next thing personally myself, just as a fan of the band. But again, still acknowledging that, like, everything attached to it, I've liked. I was excited to hear everything. I guess we're not going to get that straight away. I am willing to bet that obviously ideas will be repurposed, and more likely than not, Austin will at some point tease just dropping full demos online, and like a lot of this will see the light of day. Bureaucratic stuff, I would guess a lot of this has to do with Fueled by Ramen not really taking to this band going out and reissuing a lot of their songs. I don't know.
You know, that is curious. I guess I would have to understand what leg exactly Fueled by Ramen has to stand on when so much of what Waterparks is doing feels like common practice. But obviously, I don't have any insight into what Waterparks' contract was like for Fueled by Ramen, only that it lasted the one album and they are now independent.
I'm just trying to figure out what other bureaucratic stuff might at all impact something like that, or where they would be vulnerable to other bureaucratic things, you know? Like,
I agree with you in that sense. Yes. You're right. It's so nebulous. It's hard for me to really put a finger on what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. What else does he specifically state were some of the issues?
I mean,
besides
like,
how he feels
mental
like
well-being.
mentally, but I mean, like, unprecedented mishaps. Like, what is that speaking to?
maybe it's features falling through that we were really dead set on having, things like
Bizarre
that.
things that have gone truly wrong.
I mean, we all know what that is. That's the elephant in the room, all right?
Do you think
That's the Otto Wood stuff.
Do you think it might? Okay, yes, that's a fairly good point there. Who presumably killed the Austin Knight that is being buried at the beginning of this video. Sure. Do you, in any sense, feel like this could be a work?
So that is the first place that my mind jumped to, and I didn't want to be the one to bring it up.
I think the strength for that argument comes from the fact that we received this well filmed, well put together 30-second YouTube clip to coincide with the announcement.
It feels
interesting. Premeditated. This murder.
Well, you know what feels more premeditated is the cancellation of it. Because I think that this makes for a really interesting story that does get people talking. Case in point here on the podcast.
Sure.
Was this the plan all along? Announce this broad thing, large scope thing, but never let it see the light of day. It's almost for me like, is it potentially just to get conversation around this band going? Is it intentional? Like what is it?
Another interesting point and takeaway from this is that this is not the first time Waterparks has done this. They actually canceled an album that came before Fandom, before that came out.
Well, that's an interesting thing too, though, because I feel like
there's precedence.
The wait between Entertainment and Fandom wasn't that long, so I don't know. I don't know
either. It's hard to say, right? It's not something that happens very often in this scene. And I will say that if we just outright have canceled this album, it takes an immense amount of courage to just sort of like come out and tell people, hey, this thing you were looking forward to, like, I'm sorry, I apologize, but like my heart isn't in it.
And the other reasoning Austin provides is like, it seems legitimate. Like if you don't want to, like mentally, if it puts you in a place that you don't feel like being in anymore, then yeah, that makes total sense to want to detach yourself from that. The other catch here though is it's like, look forward to the next couple of months.
Right. Like what are we?
So what's going on?
For
are
me,
you
that
taking
makes
a break
it sound
from music
like
or not?
we definitely knew, or we've definitely planned out how we are going to maybe mitigate the disappointment that comes with, regardless of, how you feel overall, you're still maybe slightly disappointed. Like, I guess I'm slightly disappointed I'm not going to get to hear this, even though I respect the decision, right? And I think you probably come into a situation like this, having that in the back of your mind, Waterparks as artists, and they're like, okay, well, what can we do to, stop the bleeding a little bit on something like this? So I'm curious what that is as well.
It's all very strange because
it is all very strange.
It's not like
it doesn't happen often.
It's not like this was already an afterthought. We were getting full-fledged music videos for these reimagined tracks.
Right. So it all rings a bit peculiar. But we also have seen a lot of artists in this scene start to really take their mental health much more seriously than they have in the past, and fans be much more accepting of it. Thus, not surprised when an artist actually does come out and put their, selves forward before their art. But I think ultimately I am more excited for a new phase as opposed to a continuation. And that's where I land on this.
I'm right there with you.
Better Lovers have released new single, A White Horse Covered in Blood.
Can you believe you saw yourself as a special mind, so slick and so sophisticated? Can't got your tongue now. Oh, hey, what if you could?
The band, featuring ex-members of Every Time I Die and the Dillinger Escape Plan, in addition to Fit for an Autopsy guitarist and producer Will Putney, will release their debut album, Highly Irresponsible, on October 25th via Sharptone Records. The album, unsurprisingly, was produced by Will Putney. Jordan Buckley on the new album via Knotfest. Writing and recording our first full-length was slightly more surgical than the EP, but had a similar lack of restraint. I feel more pressure writing this press release than I felt all winter in Will's studio. I got to wake up every day and watch the masters perfect their craft. I was a student It was a playground. Everything was funny. We were reading each other's minds, even creating our own language at some points. I didn't know if I was watching my closest friends write music or if I was watching music use us to exist. The voice in my head warning me how highly irresponsible it was to hop on this bull again was gone, replaced by bad ideas, inside jokes, and a rejuvenated love for helping to write songs that don't sound like anything else. Humans and animals alike are programmed to do wild things for what they love, highly responsible things, and we love what they've created. We know you will too. We love what we've created. We know you will too. The band will be playing Furnace Fest this October in Birmingham, Alabama, alongside August Burns, Red, The Devil Wears Prada, Dying Wish, and many more. Better Lovers currently holds over 52,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Marcos, take it away.
Why do I think Better Lovers is already off to a better start with monthly listeners? 52 feels
Reserved. Quiet.
It feels a little low for this band, a band of this stature with
A big pedigree coming behind them. Yes, I agree. And who seem to have a lot of underground support. This, as far as I can tell, has been a project that, since its outset, most of the fans of Every Time I Die and the Dillinger Escape Plan have embraced with open arms. And I will say, having listened to this single in particular, I can understand why Every Time I Die fans would be very much aligned with the sound that Better Lovers is chasing here. It is sonically very familiar. It simply has a different face at the forefront.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to like here. I like the album title. I like the album artwork. I like...
The album artwork is like this very 70s Cabbage Patch Garbage Pail Kid.
It's very vibrant.
Yes.
Something shooting itself and it not being blood, but
like old
different
children's
things.
toys that are like, pull this piece of gum and it'll crush your finger like a mouse trap. It has that energy.
I like
Silliness.
instrumentally that it definitely harkens to an Every Time I Die sound that we're very familiar with. And I like Daryl as a vocalist, but mixing them together still doesn't work for me in the way that I need it to.
I think part of the issue overall, and I think you'll probably align with me, is that reminding me of what I've lost has worked against my adoration for this band.
And it's there on a conscious level when you're watching the video, but it's in a subconscious level as well, because I know that Better Lovers wouldn't exist if Every Time I Die didn't tragically fall apart in the way that they did. And I don't know if I will personally ever be able to get over that wall because of how much I loved everything that made Every Time I Die, mainly Keith Buckley's vocal, not mainly, but one of the biggest contributors
was important.
His presence. Also his voice, which is very different in my opinion from Daryl. And again, while I do think that Better Lovers is a cool project, I'm happy it exists. It's personally still not my thing because I can't get over the fact that it would not exist if this beautiful thing I loved didn't implode and cave in on itself.
Unfortunately, though, and you read it in between the lines of the press release, Every Time I Die was clearly not a happy place to be. And someone like Jordan Buckley has found much more peace and happiness in this project than he did in the current state of that one when it ended.
That's all well and good, but we've long joked on this show that the greatest a band will ever sound is fresh off the worst breakup of their life.
Interesting point.
Romantically.
I also want to point out alternatively...
So I don't need to see these guys happy from a musical standpoint.
Keith Buckley's project, Many Eyes, I have not connected with in any capacity.
Yeah, I know. That's the...
and that's completely different than Every Time I Die.
It's definitely worth including that note in that, I do not care about that band in any capacity either. So, I'm at a weird, I'm on the fence with everything here. I will check out this album.
I like the aesthetic of the music video. I really enjoyed that. I really like the real sort of tangible feeling to it, where it pulls out and you see the stage is crafted. I like the energy of the song. I really like, in particular,
do you like the song?
I don't know that I love Dillinger Escape Plan as a vocalist.
Do you like the song?
I thought it was okay.
Okay.
I thought it was okay.
All right.
I don't love it. I thought it was okay.
It's not a bad song.
You're right. The point of comparison is what hurts this the most. Though I was never super into Dillinger Escape Plan, so maybe if I just start comparing it to that, I'll be much more happy. Fit for an Autopsy return with new single Hostage. New album, The Nothing That Is, will release October 25th via Nuclear Blast, ironically, the same date as member Will Putney's previously mentioned project Better Lovers. It's the follow-up to 2022 full-length album, Oh What the Future Holds. The band shared the following on the new song, Per Revolver. Hostage is an examination of the human trauma and grief one carries through life. The inability to escape events of the past, combined with the feeling of an increasingly dark future, can weigh on a person like nothing else. This song is intended to capture the complex and overwhelming emotion and conveys the negative side of a sorrowed existence. And on the album, per New Noise magazine, The Nothing That Is a full realization of our identity and intention. Every song on this record serves a purpose, and it feels like our most dynamic and powerful album to date. We hope you enjoy it as much as we do. The band will embark on a headlining tour this October with support from Body Snatcher, Distant Silosis, and Judiciary. Fit for an Autopsy currently stand at 288,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Yes, sir.
The Nothing That Is sounds like someone trying to remember what Nothing Nowhere's name is.
Interesting.
Who's that one artist?
Nothing that
Nothing That Is.
Nothing who. Nothing why. Do you like it more or less than Oh What the Future Holds? They feel very similar to me.
Yeah, this
band has a very specific naming convention for their albums.
Yeah, well, Fit for an Autopsy also feel like they have a very specific sound for their songs.
Okay.
And I think that magic has worn off slightly on me over the years, and like now I get to the point where like we get the new album announcement, we get the new song, and I'm certainly not as high on everything as I was back in like the the fucking Black Mammoth days.
Sea of Tragic Beasts?
Yeah, well, even before then.
So you've cooled on this band significantly is what I'm hearing.
And I guess that's not the angle
Well,
I
just be
immediately
honest.
want to take this in, but yeah, I have cooled on this band for a bit. And I was thinking as you were discussing this, honestly, it's
You miss every time I die. Yeah, no, I hear you.
It's not that. It's crazy how much more Will Putney, the producer, a god. Albums he produces, bands he's involved in are like at way different levels for me.
Interesting. So you're not particularly fond of Will Putney's projects as much as you are the ones that he sort of helps facilitate.
Yes. That said, I mean, I think this is a cool song. I think the video is a little fairly forgettable, honestly.
The video lacks a punch. It's a little maybe too self-serious, and the style of black and white doesn't overall work for it. And I wish that the band was a little bit more married to the aesthetic in that they don't necessarily feel like they match what the video is going for, at least in its sort of period piece-esque style.
Yeah, I don't know quite what it is. That's part of it, is like this band doesn't seem like they want to marry like a specific image or look at all, or even
Besides being metal.
yeah, like that's, I don't know, part of it.
So you're just saying everything fell a little flat for you
Yeah.
all around. Okay.
I think I just need something a little more exciting to be coming out of this band at the moment, and this isn't quite the thing that scratches that itch for me.
All right, I don't wholly disagree with you. I enjoyed the song, and I'm curious about what comes next.
They announced a
specifically
tour that looks
based-
pretty solid, and I'm certainly not out on that.
Tour looks solid.
I'm not out on this record.
I like the way they talk about the
it.
record, the way that they're talking about every song on the record serving a purpose. I'm like, okay, are we talking about it conceptually? Are we talking about it sonically? Are we talking about it both? That, for me, is very interesting.
Yep.
Cane Hill have dropped new single, Fade. New album, A Piece of Me, I Never Let You Find, will arrive October 25th via Out of Line Music. It's the follow-up to the band's Cru d'Amour series of EPs and their first full-length since 2018's Too Far Gone. Guitarist Elijah Barnett on the new song Per Revolver. I wrote this song while I was madly in love with someone. We're strangers now, but I don't think this song would have come out the same had we never met. Music can be so beautifully ironic. The band will support Signs of the Swarm later this August on the Decade of the Swarm tour alongside of Sulfur, 156 Silence, and Awaken Providence. Cane Hill currently sit at just under 169,000 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Triple Better Lovers.
That is triple Battle Lovers.
Hard not to mention.
Not as much as Fit for an Autopsy. That's what we're trying to pay for everyone
But
here.
well deserved, because I love Cane Hill, and I think that this track here is pretty great. One thing I did want to say real quick is I cannot believe it's already been 6 years since Too Far Gone. And that I can't believe this band did wait 6 years to release a new record.
Right. Obviously, we got
They haven't been inactive.
or we got a fair amount of music in between. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But they just feel like, to me, another one of these bands who has been experimenting with their sort of like release pipeline and how they market themselves.
And
I
even
don't
their
think it's
sound to
terribly
some
different than what a
degree.
lot of other bands have done.
Yeah, even their sound to some degree, and I think they've certainly found like a really a groove that really speaks to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really like the music video for this, surprisingly, because I am generally a hard out on interpretive dance music videos. But there's a moment where like the
like the
interpretive
second
dance and the
verse.
band meet in a way that like
Breaks the fourth wall.
yeah, a little bit more fulfilling than these videos generally tend to be. And Cane Hill has always been such a presence to watch on screen.
Yeah, at some point Elijah Witt in that scene is like he's doing like some of it, like just small bits of it alongside the interpretive dancer. And
Right,
it's like,
almost as like we're passing one dance off to the
Yeah,
other. Right, in
it's
a
very
fun
neat.
way. I think Cane Hill's style on the song is also very interesting as well, where they have a very an interesting like sonic clash that tends to happen in their style of songs, where it's like it presents itself as one thing, but it sort of completely turns into something else during the time of the track.
it's a very airy chorus. I really
yeah.
dig this song.
Yeah, but it has like some heavier moments. It's really neat. Marcus, we're going to review the brand new album from 4 Years Strong and then get out of here. Take it away.
The breakdown.
Analysis Paralysis by 4 Years Strong. This is the Worcester, Massachusetts outfit's 6th studio album. It arrives the 9th of August via Pure Noise Records. Analysis Paralysis consists of 12 tracks, Sam, and is the follow-up to 2020's Brain Pain LP. So, like, 2 albums in a row with similar naming conventions.
Yeah, I get it.
What is analysis paralysis,
Sure.
Sam? That is a common phenomenon, maybe you've experienced this, that occurs when someone is unable to make a decision due to overthinking a problem.
Twice a day.
It can also be called paralysis by analysis or overthinking. Paralysis by analysis doesn't quite, jump off the tongue.
Right.
in the
Obviously,
same
the
way,
editor
though.
came in there and is like, drop the by.
Drop the thought.
It's cleaner. It's cleaner.
From the band here. When it's time to start making a record, we tend to go through this process where we don't know how to make music anymore. This is 4 Years Strong vocalist / guitarist Dan O'Connor with a laugh. We sit in a room with guitars in our hands and go, how do you make new things on this? Which is fucking valid.
I do the same thing with podcasts.
I still look at a guitar and I'm like, how do they do it?
Guitars make no sense to me.
Any song, how do they do it?
Magic.
When it came time to prep what would become their 6th album, Analysis Paralysis, they were truly finally stumped. O'Connor and vocalist / guitarist Alan Day, to 2 vocalists / guitarists in this band, showed up to Will Putney's studio. Will
He's
Putney,
everywhere.
The man who never fucking sleeps.
Literally.
They showed up to his studio on day 1 of recording without a single finished song, in stark contrast to the 40-some ideas they brought to the table as the band and Putney began work on 2020's Brain Pain all those years ago. We purposely didn't tell Will we hadn't written any songs, which I think is so fucking
That reads
funny,
like ooh ooh.
because we knew he'd make us reschedule and we'd come back on that date with no music still.
That is so funny. Is that a thing? Is that a thing that happened? Well,
It's a thing that happens.
Producers be like, don't fucking show up to my studio with no songs, right? I don't have time for that
I love
bullshit.
the idea of like them
Will
locking-
Putney's like, I'm in 4 bands. I don't have like show up with some songs.
Will Putney's like, he was giving him handshakes as he's letting him into the studio. He's like, I'm excited. How much you guys got written? They're lying the entire time.
I was got 42
And then
songs
like he
written
goes
this
and
time,
sits in
dog.
his
It's crazy.
chair.
Yeah.
One of the guys from 4 Years Strong goes and puts like a chair under the studio door, and he's like, You're not locked in here with us.
And lucky for them, Will Putney's already sleeping in the studio, so it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, right. Where were we? We needed to lock down and figure out what we were going to do. The first week was a brick fucking wall, and I really appreciate that transparency. This is me speaking now.
Sure.
Back to the band. The two songwriters spent most of these early days in a spare bedroom at Putney's house talking about and listening to music, desperate for a spark of inspiration that could guide the path forward. In a way, they found it by looking back at what made Brain Pain such a success in their eyes, and even the genesis of 4 Year Strong as a band. Another quick breather here. I love just saying music and not clarifying at all like what the vibe was.
Who the fuck were you listening to?
They like
explain yourself.
They laid it all out on the table. It's like we gotta spend some time with jazz. We gotta spend some time with country.
Sorry, we have 48 hours to listen to the expanse.
I like that Will Putney grounded them. He's like, you two,
no one leave
spare
this
bedroom
room.
now.
Yeah, that's precisely correct. Come up with a song.
I'm gonna spend some time with the drummer. We're at least gonna get like the bones going here.
Yeah, precisely correct.
We were able to take a couple of risks in our songwriting on Brain Pain that we weren't sure our fans would be stoked on, O'Connor admits. We're always dipping our toes into that, but the weirder stuff was actually the moments fans really loved. Adds Day. Once we realized we can do things outside of the box and have people respond to it, we said, okay, now we can do what we did back when Rise or Die Trying came out. I think that was their first record.
It was.
Which is write the music we want to be playing and hearing, not just the music people expect us to play. This light bulb moment unlocked a new wave of creativity for the pair.
Me breaking in.
You breaking in. Come on in.
Quick aside. It pains me deeply that we had to wait this long to go back to this creative mindset.
Yeah, elephant in the
Deeply.
room we'll get to after all this here. Along the way, the quartet focused on integrating every element of analysis paralysis into an overarching theme of discomfort, from the songs themselves to the dizzying music video for pre-release single Daddy of Mine. Look no further than the album's visceral cover art, an unsettling photo of a dead-eyed stuffed dog, the kind of off-kilter creature that pops up in an antique store that inexplicably follows you home to haunt your dreams.
That's accurate.
And if you have laid your eyes on the album artwork,
Yeah.
that dog is fucking creepy.
Dog is fucked.
They captured that magic 100% there.
Yeah.
And you know, we're ending here for the most part. There's an unease that comes from the bands we loved growing up in the 90s. O'Connor explains of the album's lyrical, visual, and sonic themes. It hasn't really ever worked its way into 4 Year Strong because of the boundaries we'd set for ourselves, but a lot of the album's lyrics talk about being uncomfortable in life. I think subconsciously, throughout all the elements that make up the record, we've been leaning towards the feeling of something a little off, a little different, because that's what life is, a series of uncomfortable moments.
Another good name for an album.
Scrapped album
Yeah.
title. I had a little bit more here. If the elements that make up analysis paralysis represent the Sisyphean strain it took for the band to create it, then finally breaking through to the other side has emboldened them with a new energy and
Yeah,
enthusiasm.
I've never smoked that before. That sounds crazy, though.
Yeah, Sisyphean.
This is a Viet strain?
Yeah, I had to fucking
Yeah?
whew,
Yeah?
get the sweat off my
Sure.
fucking forehead.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard work to find the thing that spoke to us and what we thought would speak to our fans. A lot of fucking work, Day admits. What intrigues us as music fans is being challenged and hearing those head-turning moments when you're at the edge of your seat, wondering what's going to happen next. I don't need everyone to hear one of our songs and think it's amazing, O'Connor adds. What would bother me is if people hear it and go, it's whatever, which is how we've reviewed countless albums on the show. That would bother me more.
That's how you reviewed the last 3 songs we talked about. Jesus.
If it ever felt stale. That would bother me more if it ever felt stale.
Sure.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Addressing the elephant in the room. First time we've ever discussed 4 Year Strong on the show for the most part, even like singles up until this year. Did not review Brain Pain, did not review the albums that came before it, even though we're a long running program. And a lot of that's to do with us not really vibing with 4 Year Strong for a long while, or even in spite of them being Hometown Heroes in Worcester, Massachusetts. That's like 15 minutes from us.
The irony is that I so often don't connect with bands who are from my hometown. Like I've said it long.
Sam's also the biggest Ice Nine. He's got 3 posters for Ice Nine Kills
they don't
in this
count.
room.
They're Connecticut.
1, 2.
I'm talking about Massachusetts specifically. I feel like every time somebody's like, "Oh,
Ice Nine
damn,
Kills is Massachusetts.
Massachusetts," no, they're by proxy.
Spencer
baby.
claims Salem, which I don't think is true, but he claims it.
Yeah, that's literally Spencer's from Kansas. What was I gonna say?
I don't know.
Like, every time
Hometown
somebody's like,
Heroes.
"Oh damn, fucking Massachusetts Metal and Hardcore Festival."
Oh,
That's
you
crazy.
guys,
Killswitch Engage,
you guys are
Shadows
lucky.
Fall? Yeah,
You guys got Killswitch
wow.
Engage.
I was like, who? What? Stop.
Meanwhile, I'm like, why is Paris the only good Massachusetts band to ever exist?
I want to move to Ohio just so I can claim good bands. Let's talk a little bit about. Wait, what were we saying? We've never liked this band. That's harsh. I've never connected with them.
Yeah, I didn't say never vibed is what I said.
A 16-year-old me drew a line in the sand and said, "A day to remember, a 4 year strong," and I was like, "A day to remember till I die."
It is
and
funny.
This is hard shade. We've had a hard shift recently.
It is funny. Because you're 100% right, and I think a lot of that, like we talked about, the Hatchet that probably didn't even exist being buried with A Day to Remember and 4
Yeah.
Years Strong finally touring together.
They literally just
again,
finished up that
maybe
tour, I
the
think.
summer, yeah. But at a point, like even subconsciously, I did decide like I only have one room, there's only one room in this town up here
Right.
for metalcore pop, and it's A Day to Remember for me, and it's not 4 Years Strong.
You're right, unfortunately. But I feel
Ocala,
like
Florida is probably a cooler place to be from than Worcester, Massachusetts.
I feel like I've been so uninvested in this project that I wonder if they're even what I thought they were for the last few years.
They're not.
Really,
They
I must
can't
have
be,
heard like
yeah.
a single or two, and it just like did not move the needle for me to go like check out the rest of the material. Like I really don't think I've fucked with this band since like Wasting Time, and that's like 10 years now. Easy.
But I mean, I think it gives credit to some strong singles here, really roping us in, and there being some enthusiasm on our part to hear this record. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it in the year, Lord, 2024, but like I was actively enthusiastic about the upcoming 4 Year Strong album.
Couldn't wait to hear this, honestly. On the back of Bad Habit and Uncooked, I was like, this is a band that I completely do not recognize, but I fuck with very heavily.
This album hit our inbox and I started rubbing my hands together.
Sure,
I cannot
exactly.
believe those words.
Which is why I always, and I've said this on the show multiple times, stick with bands far after I've like lost my enthusiasm for them, because I feel like they're only ever an album away from getting me back.
That's all it takes.
Which is why I've had so many reviews on this show where it's like, I know I hated their last 2 albums, and like, God damn it, I hate this one too, but I'm still here. Like I had to show up. I had to know.
Getting real good vibes about the next one though.
And then we get something like this, and like suddenly I'm like, holy shit. As far as I'm concerned, 4 Year Strong has never been a better band than they are on this record. Not even close. Like not even going all the way back to like Legends fucking rise and Heroes get remembered and they never die and all that fucking bullshit. The Fueled by Robin days.
And when it was all said and done and I finished this record, I ended up feeling pretty great about it.
I loved
overall.
it. I think it's a lot of fun. I feel like they kind of painted it in a light that made it sound like this was sort of like somehow dour and like at least its conceptual nature and like the lyricism. But overall, I have a fucking blast with this record. Like it's just a lot of fucking like thick little bassy riffs and like fuzzy guitars and kind of like simple like sing-along hooks. And that's the vast majority of this record, and it works every goddamn time.
Yeah, I think that lyrically that's probably the most average thing here. And I say that not disrespectfully. I just say it from like there's nothing super truly like introspective happening.
It's important
especially
that it's
from
that
like
way,
challenging yourself and trying to break free of the whole, brain freeze and being able to, how do you write an album, all that stuff. Like it ends up just having like fine lyrics, just some good lines in here, but it's not all,
I think that's a specific decision on the band's end to keep things uncomplicated.
It seems
so that you
intentional.
could sort of enjoy and sing along to it. And I think they really like fucking knock it out of the park in that aspect, because this is the most fun I've had with 4 Year Strong in a decade. And it's one of the most fun I've had with an album all year, to be completely honest.
Starts
with
off
you.
fun as hell, aftermath/afterthought. It's a real chunky song. Bad Habit, Maybe It's Me, all good sing-alongs. Uncooked is really where my interest really started to rise for this album.
It's reminiscent of Turnstile to me, and I'm assuredly people have pointed that out as well in the past. But there's something about that style of sort of like faded out kind of like pop punk that is sort of like 90s reminiscent that works incredibly well for me.
Totally.
I like the slight heaviness of Daddy of Mine. I think the slightly more somber STFIL is maybe the standout track on this record.
It really is.
Just hiding there in the back end of that deep cut that I think is absolutely incredible.
What does it stand for again? It's something fall in love. Sorry that you fell in love, something like that.
You're right. You put me on the spot now, and it's like I can hear the song and I can hear the melody, but I can't repeat the lyrics.
I think that song actually kicks off probably my favorite like quarter of this record.
Sure.
I really think it ends on a lot of its strongest material, and I think it's banger after banger after banger at the end there into Roller Coaster, which really leads into those like 90s sounds that this band was talking earlier about.
Right. This like alternative like pop punk, the stuff that they were talking about earlier with the press release.
Better Get Better is just, it's an earworm that absolutely just drills itself into your brain.
The more I sit here and think about these songs and like discuss them out with you, I do realize that yes, maybe I have picked up on the maybe like more dowered nature of a lot of the songs and the sort of like attitude like being displayed in them, even if a lot of the riffs are really like fun and punchy.
This is a very sunshiny record, but it's like, yeah, there are
there's
a couple clouds.
You say that, but it's like it's definitely like clashing sort of like energies in terms of like sonically, but then like verbally what the band is actually saying to you.
Well, like, I mean, to sort of emphasize that, like sonically, windows down, sunny day, having an absolute fucking blast with this one.
Right, like there's a run there from Uncooked through Dead End Friend that is absolutely fucking insane for that type.
Yeah.
And
How Do I
that,
Let You Go is a wonderful closer.
What an incredible way to close the album. It's that fucking like sad sort of like fucking like teary goodbye. I think this band does an incredible job of like navigating like those like emotions throughout this record and knowing how to like separate them so you don't get like stuck in one place for too long.
They do some stuff like vocally on that track too that is reminiscent to me of something that someone like the 1975 might pull.
Sure.
With like a lot of like just post-production on the vocals. Just a neat song in general. I think the coolest thing this record has going for it is it's just a lot of variety.
Yeah, agreed.
There's 3, 4, 5 tracks on here that don't sound anything like other tracks on here, which is always a great thing. And overall, I mean, again, 2024, and I just heard a 4 Year Strong album that I'm very high on.
It's phenomenal, honestly. Like start to finish, I just truly enjoyed it a lot. Marcos, that's been an episode. We're glad to be back. Once again, if you're a patron, you can stick around for SOTS Deluxe. Patreon.com/SOTS podcast, only $3 a month. See you next week.
Goodbye.